Well, August has come to an end and September is about to begin. So that means that it's time for me to share with you the books that I was able to read in the month of August. Hello, my name is Jonathan, and this is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. I'm an elementary school teacher who reads middle grade fiction so that I can make recommendations to my students, to their parents, and to other teachers. Now, in the month of August, I read 15 books, and I want to share those with you. First up, and this one is not a middle grade book, and that is the book Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is the first book in a series about a young man named Darrow, who is he's what's considered a red, and in his society, that's the lowest of the low caste. And through a series of events that take place, including a personal tragedy, he decides that it's time to overthrow that system. And what he does is gets mixed up with a group that wants to do the same thing, and they implement him into society as one of the top echelon. And he goes to a special school where he's trained and taught how to be this. There were times where I thought I was going to give up on this book. Be honest, it was really brutal. It was a little hard to read in places, particularly some of the subject matter. But I'm really glad I stuck through it, and will likely continue the series at some point. I also read a new book called Another by Paul Tremblay, and this was a middle grade horror novel, and I got to tell you, it was very unsettling. It's about a boy named Casey who has some social anxiety because of a bullying situation that took place. During COVID, they were doing online school, and he had a panic attack because of having to read to the class, and one of his classmates thought it would be a good idea to make a video of that. And well, one day his parents come home with a rotary phone, something he's never seen before, and it rings, and there's a mysterious man on the other end of the line telling his parents that his friend is coming to stay for a sleepover. And when this mysterious man shows up, he brings a bag, and in that bag is Casey's supposed friend. And things just go crazy from there. This book is a lot about isolation and what it feels like to lose yourself and have somebody replace you. It was very unsettling. It was a slow burn horror as opposed to a lot of jump scares, but it did stick with me, particularly in a way that, there are a lot of questions that are not answered when you get to the end. So that book was Another by Paul Tremblay. Then I read Nightmare Island, and it is by Shakirah Bourne. This is the story of a girl named Serenity, and she begins having nightmares of a place that she's never been, and then things start to go a little strange with her brother. And so her parents say that they're going to take him to an island to get treatment, and she has to stay with her grandma. Well, she decides that that's not going to work for her, so she sneaks to the island and discovers that there's some pretty creepy stuff taking place on this island, especially with Dr. Whisper. This book had very strong Island of Dr. Moreau feel. So if you are familiar with that adult science fiction novel by H.G. Wells, Nightmare Island was definitely had those feels as well. I also read a book. This is a classic book for me, one that I've read many times and love, and that's called The Wish Giver by Bill Brittain. And it is the story of 4 people who go to a tent at the church social, and there's a guy named Thaddeus Blinn who promises them he can give them anything they want. And so they pay him the money, and he gives them a card with a red circle on it. They're not sure if they believe him, but each one of them uses the card to make a wish, and they quickly learn you have to be careful what you wish for, because it doesn't always go the way that you are planning for it to go. Love this book. It was a lot of fun. My wife and I went on a trip, a weekend trip for our anniversary, and I was able to read this during that time. It's a quick read, read it in about a day, but it's an absolutely fabulous book, a lot of fun to read. Then I also read Camp Sylvania, and this is the story of a girl named Maggie who thought she was going to have a wonderful summer going to Camp Rising Star, but at the very last moment, her parents tell her that she is going to Camp Sylvania, which is a health and fitness camp. And so she not very happy about going to it, but goes, and there is a lot of strange things taking place there. They can only eat a red diet. They are highly encouraged to donate blood every single day, which everyone does because it's the only place you can get cookies and things like that. There's a lot of strange things that take place at this camp. Now, I will tell you, in this particular book, and I read some reviews of it, it is almost exactly like the Disney movie Heavyweights, about the kid who gets sent to fat camp, and it is taken over by a health guru who starts doing some strange things to the kids. So if you like that movie, you will probably enjoy this book. Needless to say, instead of a psychotic camp director, there's some type of monster. So if you want to give this a try, go for it. There's also a sequel that I am going to read at some point. I also had the opportunity to read the new book, Snoop by Gordon Korman. And this is about a boy named Carter who, through a freak accident, he wasn't paying attention, he was on his phone, gets both of his legs broken on a ski trip. And so he's stuck at home. Kind of ask yourself, what happens when you're a teenage boy who is stuck at home, all of your friends are at school all day, and you have unlimited access to the town's surveillance cameras? And so Carter is soon finds himself addicted to what's going on, and is constantly using the surveillance cameras in town to snoop on things that are going on. And it has a lot of I heard this in a interview with Gordon Korman. He got the idea from watching the old Alfred Hitchcock movie Rear Window, and it definitely has those vibes to it. Definitely has that looking out on the world. And then Carter finds out that maybe having too much information isn't always a good thing. I also read Why I'm Afraid of Bees by R.L. Stine. This is continuing in the original Goosebumps series. I think this is number 17 or 18. And in this particular one, there's a guy named Gary. Gary has a pretty rough life. He's kind of a klutz. He trips over his own feet and does all of those things. He comes across an ad online when he's playing a computer game that says that he can switch bodies with anybody for a week. And so he signs up and proceeds to go through with it. But at the last moment, just as the procedure is about to take place, he gets swapped with a bee. And so he finds himself in the body of a bee and has to figure out how to switch himself back. Like most Goosebumps books, this one was a little bit silly, more silly than scary. But I guess if you ever have a fear of getting your body swapped with an insect, this one would probably give you nightmares. I finished up a series called Spirit Hunters. And this book, the last one in the trilogy, was Something Wicked. It's written by Ellen O. I have a video where I talk about the original Spirit Hunters being the scariest middle grade book that I've ever read. And this one continues in it. Now, it's not nearly as scary as the first one, maybe not even as scary as the second entry into the trilogy, but this one was pretty scary. And what ends up happening is there is a new makeup store. The makeup store is stealing the age from the women that use the makeup. And so the girls have to figure out how to stop the owner of the makeup store that's going through this, especially since her older sister Kelly works there, and something bad is about to happen to her. This was a great trilogy, the Spirit Hunters trilogy. Absolutely loved it. Would highly recommend it to 4th and 5th graders, definitely. I also continued reading through the Spirit Animals trilogy, and I finished book 3, which is called Blood Ties. And in this particular one, the group of children and their spirit animals are looking to get the elephant talisman. And as continues, as the series continues, the stakes are starting to get higher. There's a really epic battle at the end of this book. Unfortunately, There is some great sacrifice that takes place. Yeah, it was a little bit sad there, but the characters continue, and now they're going to move on and try to find the next talisman. This one would happen to be written by Garth Nix and Sean Williams. The unique thing about the Spirit Animals series is that each book, even though it has the same characters and same setting, they're all written by different authors. So book 3, Blood Ties, was written by Garth Nix and Sean Williams. Then I read a Goosebumps book, which wasn't part of the original ones, but I had seen enough recommendations and reviews of it that I grabbed a copy of it from the library. And that was called The Last Sleepover. It's the latest Goosebumps from the House of Shivers series. And in this particular one, there's a girl who lives in a house, and during a sleepover, something happens and she dies. And so she is haunting the house that she died in. And then a new family moves in, and she doesn't like the fact that they have moved in, and she wants them out. Throughout the book, they're trying to discover what happened to the girl, the brother and sister, and their friends in the ghost hunting club. And the ghost wants them to leave. And there was some really scary moments in this book. But I got to tell you, the end was surprisingly tender. There was a really sweet moment at the end of the book that had me tearing up a little bit because of how sweet that moment was, which was kind of surprising for a Goosebumps book. Highly recommend it. It's one of the best Goosebumps I've ever read. This is called Camp Murderface by Josh Berk and Saundra Mitchell. And this is the story of Korman and Tez, and they are at a camp in 1983. They discover there's a lot of really scary stuff taking place. There was one scene in here that was reminiscent for me of watching the movie Stephen King's It. So if you have seen the original miniseries that was on TV back when, if you're my age, back when we were in middle school, there was a scene in this book that was very reminiscent of that. It was absolutely terrifying. This book, Camp Murderface, might actually give spirit hunters a run for its money on scariest middle grade book I've read. The only beef that I have with this, well, I have two. First, the fact that it was set in 1983. I don't know. It never really came up. I mean, there were a few mentions of the time frame, a couple of pop culture references to 1983, but it doesn't really affect the setting. And the second, it's told in a dual point of view. So part of it we get Tez, part of it we get Korman. But the two characters are written so closely that sometimes it was hard to tell which one was which, and you'd have to read and look to see who was talking in order to determine who was telling the story. But overall, fantastic book. I mean, it was, like I said, it was pretty scary. And then I rounded out the month with a classic book, Bunicula, by Deborah and James Howe. This is the story of Harold and Chester. Harold's a dog, Chester's a cat, and their owners go to the movies one night and come back with a rabbit. And mysterious things start to happen, like white vegetables. And so they have to figure out the mystery of who Bunicula is. A classic. I read this when I was younger. I've read it a few times since. Thought I'd give it a read again. Really fun book. Like this a lot. As I mentioned before, I have a long commute. I travel about an hour one way, so 2 hours in the car each day. So I have an opportunity to do a lot of audiobooks. And I read through listened to 3 audiobooks this month. The first one being City Spies, City of the Dead. It was book 4 in the City Spies series by James Ponti. And in this particular one, the City Spies end up going to Egypt to help to recover some stolen Egyptian artifacts and figure out why there are some cyber attacks that are taking place in England. And it introduces a new character named Robert, who may or may not be working for the bad guys. So I'm going to continue on with that series because I really like it. I also read or listen to book 3 of the Myrtle Hardcastle mystery series. This one was called Cold-Blooded Myrtle. And in this book, Myrtle and Governess, they are going to see a Christmas display. They have a shopkeeper in town who puts on a Christmas display every year. And when they show up, they notice something's a little bit off about it and discover that it is recreating a murder scene. And it dredges up memories of a missing person from many years ago who may or may not have been friends with Myrtle's mother, who has passed away. And that scene sets off a whole series of incidents where anybody who was tied to that person's disappearance falling prey to this unknown murderer. And so Myrtle and her governess have to solve the crime and hopefully figure out whether or not Myrtle's mother was involved somehow. Fantastic book. By any stretch, an Agatha Christie fan, highly recommend these. These are wonderful. They're cozy, surprisingly violent. There's a lot of death in these books, but really enjoyable and a lot of fun to listen to and read. And then finally, the last one, the new Sherlock Society book, The Hurricane Heist, comes out in just a couple of days. And so in preparation for reading the sequel, I went back and listened to The Sherlock Society, also by James Ponti. And this is the story of 4 kids who, looking for a summer job, decide to start a detective agency, which is quickly squashed by their mother. And so their grandfather, who is a retired journalist, says, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we solve some of these old mysteries? Thing leads to another. They're looking for Al Capone's missing money, and it goes off in a pretty wild direction involving some poisoned land and counterfeit money, different things like that. Great book, highly enjoyable series. Everything James Ponti puts out is fantastic. Well, those were the 15 books that I read or listened to in the month of August. What were you able to read in the month of August? Leave a title down below, particularly if it's something you think I'd be interested in. I'd love to add it to my to be read list. If you're enjoying these videos, if you like the conversation and like learning about these middle grade books, please consider liking and subscribing to this video. It helps to get these videos presented to a wider audience so more people can see them. My name is Jonathan. This is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. We'll see you in the next video.